$9,600 in 2016. So 9,600, 20 for the, so between the two departments was 33,800. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. At the risk of sounding like a complete rookie, I'm wondering if staff is able to pull up, we talked about drilling down on specific budget lines and provide more detail, because I am struggling to follow along when we're talking about services and advertising, and I think all of these things are really important, and I'm wanting to make sure that I'm fully understanding what things, are we able to provide more details while we discuss that? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Martin, we will be bringing up our budget software on, there it is, on your monitors, and we will definitely bring up that information and drill down to the level that you require.
So as we look at the training component as well, what component of that training budget, I've sent a message out to SLT to be prepared today for the question, is what went to college, university programs?
So just to provide council some idea here, in terms of 2016 and 2018, the approved budget for training hasn't changed for council services. It's been 8,400 every year. The budget in terms of training hasn't ever changed significantly since I started here. One of the things that we've done and able to have additional training, such as universities courses, is that we've not attended conferences. So we've cut other areas of our training in order to allow us to. The AMCTO conference annually is something that my predecessors went to every year. The clerk and deputy clerk attended. It's something that we certainly would look at resuming. So there isn't a significant savings really from our area of reducing it, because we'd be going to conferences. In terms of 2019, the savings would be $1,260, I believe, to the budget, to my budget, for not funding any university things. So because there isn't a significant savings, and to go much beyond further than that, it's I don't want to talk about my employees' decisions in terms of what they've decided to do in terms of personal training publicly. So I can provide that, but it's one of those things where it's really up to them if they want to discuss it publicly.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to the clerk, I'm confused in terms of what would their privacy be as to what a county employee is using training dollars for. I think are we talking about two different issues here? Because
no. It's certainly we get into it in specifically. Sure, it's easier for a step.
Okay.
Through the chair, the mayor, the reason why it's easier for me to respond is because it specifically relates to me. So prior to the 2019 year, within our council-approved budget, I was able to meet the requirements to have funding to go and pursue my master's degree. My decision personally was to end that, so now I'm funding it entirely by myself.
Okay. To the deputy clerk, thank you very much for your transparency. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there is a reduction then in,
Yeah, through my budget, and I believe there's only myself, the deputy clerk, and one other member who's actually involved in a program like this. So in terms of our budget, it would be rounded up, I'd say, 1,300.
I'm wondering if it would be prudent at this point to, if we want to discuss putting a motion forward at this point on behalf of council. I think we've all had this discussion at length, and rather than going through each department, perhaps, and having this same issue come up over and over and over, we know that there are people that are going to university and college programs, and Norfolk County has been funding it. There has been rumors out there in the community. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to be fully transparent with that. People in the community are frustrated with it. I don't think it's right either that taxpayers should be funding that. I understand the benefit of going to conferences and networking and doing all of that on behalf of your employer. So I'm wondering, in this next couple weeks, while we're off, if it might, rather than constantly talking about the training budget in each department, if we shouldn't decide whether or not on behalf of council, we want to eliminate any of that, university, master's, PhD, college programs from the training budgets, and then allow them to make the adjustments over the next couple weeks. Is that something? Well, I'm the chair right now, so somebody else wants to. Councilor Geisler. Okay, seconder? Councilor Van Passen. James?
Sorry. Okay, so when it comes to training and development, all I'm asking is for a very clear resolution. There are some courses you can take at a recognized college or university. It doesn't go towards a degree or a diploma, but it gives you some sort of training certificate that you need for your job. So so all I'm asking for, whatever council desires, is to be very specific if you want to include items like that, or only include items that would go towards a personal degree or diploma.
Perhaps we could we could have them separated, so next time we could see for all departments what the amount was for those that go towards a degree or a diploma. We could see what courses, what amount goes to courses. I know you're likely referring to the CPA course, or. So my challenge with the CPA course, in fact, part of this arose because of statements that you made during orientation, is really what got this discussion going. When you told us that we lost an employee to Haldeman who was only part way through his CPA, and I asked you whether or not he had to repay the entire amount, and you said no. He repaid the entire amount? Because that was not what you said that day.
So that's a very bad misunderstanding. We do have an HR policy where if you work for, I don't know the particulars of it, but if you work for us for a certain amount of time taking these courses and then you leave, there's a formula in there where you have to buy back the training that you received. And that particular employee, it was a decent amount of money that employee had to pay back.
He had to pay back a decent amount, but if he left before the completion, he should have had to pay back every single penny. In fact, if he left, I would say before 4 years or 5, there has to be some point before you have to work so many years, and then it's prorated after the fact if you want to leave.
So the particulars of the policy, perhaps I can look at my HR friends over there. I believe it even extends to courses you've completed and if you leave shortly after that. So anyways, I'll let HR reply to that one.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the policy surrounding, I think we're talking about work commitment in case of post-secondary education assistance. So the policy as it's written right now, policy HR 06 states as following: an agreement requiring continued deployment with the county is required as a condition of financial assistance with regards to post-secondary education, where the financial assistance is in excess of $1,000 in brackets, and at the discretion of the general manager concerning short-term training events, the following conditions shall apply. Over 5 years of service, no work commitment required, meaning there's no repayment after 5 years. And the second bullet point, upon completion of the course study, the employee must agree to a continuation of employment for a period not less than 5 years from the date of starting employment. In the case of termination prior to the conclusion of this period, the following refund criteria shall apply. Total expenditure on employee's behalf divided by 60 months multiplied by the months remaining in agreement equals amount to be refunded by employee. So in the specific case, in the Financial Services Department, a repayment was made in accordance with that formula as it currently exists in the policy, and obviously that is a policy that we are able to modify. In general, this policy, HR 06, is something that we're currently looking at for several modifications from, and we're currently working with our legal counsel, Nicholas Loeb, surrounding the paperwork and agreements that would be signed as part of that process.
Did council approve this policy previously?
I believe it was approved quite some time ago.
So it was a council-approved policy?
Yeah, so the front of the policy says approval date September 25th, 2001, council resolution number 6. And I'll look to.
I think there, Councillor Huffman.
Through you, Mayor. I think that makes sense, that format, that formula. It's very difficult. There has to be some type of formula because it can't be as case-by-case basis, right? There has to be some kind of structure to it. The other point to think of that we're looking at is trying to, I guess, nail down the courses that would have to be taken, not just, I'm not thinking of the CPA because I'm thinking to me, isn't that not part of the employment piece that you need to have it?
Well, it should be. I mean, that's the struggle. I mean, there's a lot of kids out there that go and they fund all of this on their own. I mean, I still have tuition that I'm still paying for. You know, people, it just seems unreasonable that Norfolk County taxpayer has been paying for all of this stuff because you get, even with a job at the library, I found out, you know, you can apply and have them cover a master's. And it's just,
well, I
makes no
would think
sense.
that I know that there would be certain positions where there would be training in terms of different legislation and things where you need to bring, you know, and those types of things, or if it's regarding, I'm just trying to think. All I can think of right now is anything to do with payroll. I don't know why. Maybe because you guys are talking about that. So I think we need to be able to differentiate that anything that is above and beyond, that has nothing to do with meeting any type of current criteria for your position in regards to.
But the argument, so what James is asking about is in terms of the CPA. I mean, for me as well, like there's lots of students out there that have a CPA. So when we're hiring, you know, that should be, if you're supposed to come with that, you should be coming with that. And if you don't, that should also be a cost that's borne by people. I know it's tough to
See, I guess part of the, I'm sorry, but this is the way my brain's going with this situation, is that there is a flip side to that, though, because then there is a retention piece, correct? Where you do have people coming in who are maybe coming in as junior employees, and yeah, they live in Norfolk County, and they're paying back their OSAP for whatever maybe their first degree is, and they're committed to continuing to be Norfolk County employees.
Well, that's
so is there that piece where we, you know, want to continue to develop our employees so that they stay and we continue to have a good field of employees? And then do we, in a case like that, whereas if a CPA degree or designation's been paid for, the formula gets put in place. So I think there's a flip side to it. It isn't cut and dry.
May I interrupt briefly? Is finance able to drill down on this report? I have this report in my binder. I would really love to see details under the services. Is that possible, please?
Through the mayor to Mayor Chop to Councillor Martin. Yes, we do have the, I can't see which one we have up there right now, but we do have what's in your document. I just wanted to just go back so that we don't get confused. Just wanted to go back when we were, the information on the 2017 budget, yes, was the mayor and council. So Cindy, if you could hit the, if you, do you have the summary up first? Yeah, if we could just, I just want to, if I could walk you through once, just so that, and then we can carry on with it. It might be a little more helpful, but I don't have it on my, oh, maybe I do. But if, you'll see that in your document, there's a summary for the county CAO's office, and within the CAO's office, there are two different areas. There's the general operations, which is the CAO and the solicitor, and the second summary sheet that you do have in your document is the council services. So the first one is the Office of the CAO summary is the total of the solicitor, the CAO, and council services. So now Cindy, if you could put on, drill down to, or bring the sheet up for council, and then just go down to, it's training we're looking at, or printing, was it, that you want to see?
Services in general.
Services in general, okay. So the items under services, there's the object codes, rents and leases, professional accounting services, advertising, contracted services, seminars and training, and maintenance and repairs.
What are the contracted services?
That one, you can drill down for that one.
So this is, and pardon my, I just don't have the knowledge here. In terms of our who fits in council service? Does our tax department fit in council service? Like, no. So the postage is all, like, sending our agendas and stuff? What's all that postage?
Through you, we run the postage machine we're kind of the central print and mail for the corporation, so we deal with it, do all the processing, and what happens is there's regular accounting for all the tax bills, so we have the amount in our budget, and then we go and put that on the postage meter, and then we will charge finance. I believe it's around $16,000 or $18,000 a year for the postage that they use, and the rest of it is corporate postage that we would do.
And the, like the courier services are 26,000? What is that what's that component?
The courier service that's a really good news story. I don't know if you guys have probably met Glenn and Trixie, but we were able to get the service again for the same cost as our previous 4-year contract. So there's been absolutely no increase in that area for now 8 years almost, and so it's a very good news story. But they also do inter-office stuff. So if there's something that needs to go to Delhi, if there's something that needs to go to Fire Hall, they look after all of that aspects, not just the deliveries of your agendas.
Madam Mayor, I have a suggestion. So we are spending a lot of time with Andy, and rightfully so. However, my suggestion is we can provide council with a printed document drilled down to a certain level to give you as soon as we can, and then we can have all these questions when we meet again in 2 weeks. And I suggest maybe if we're going to meet again in 2 weeks, we might need more than 1 day.
Well, that's why that was my suggestion. So we talk about high-level things that we're interested in looking at, so as in training, and maybe it's separating it out, university and college, that's towards a diploma or a degree program. If you want to keep out the CPA component separately, maybe, we continue with those that are in the program, and perhaps then we say that's it, and then in years following, you're hired with those qualifications. And, there's some options there that we could look at, but we need to know what those buckets look like in order to be able to do that. Consulting services, contracted services in some of the different departments. It would be nice to see what the advertising was in some of the different departments, and seeing if you can't find some reductions in those.
So, so what we can do is provide the drill down reports to council. And the other thing that would really help us out is if we can have, we started with a resolution here for training and development. If we can have resolutions for all the extra analysis that you need, and then that way we can all be on the same page when we provide it in a couple weeks.
Before. Councilor Rabbits.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of order, I believe that we do have a motion before us without a seconder, and I would like for that motion just to be clarified.
Okay, that university and college, we did have a seconder, Councilor Van Passen, that university degree and college diploma programs be eliminated from department training budgets, and departmental staff report back at the later 2019 levy-supported operating budget deliberations respecting the total reduction impact.
And clarification, are we able, through the chair to our clerk, I believe would be able to answer this, would we be able to vote on this matter, and irregardless of the outcome, would we then also be able to be privy to the information that we would like in more detail, and if we want to add that training back in, we could do so at that point in time?
Yep.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure that staff are able to follow through council's instructions as council wants us to. Specifically pertaining training budgets. As you see in front of you and you see in your budget documents, there are specific amounts allocated to those activities. The way that those funds are spent, in some respects, are subject to the discretions of those departments on those units. So, a motion asking for information providing how that money has been spent towards degree programs or diploma programs, in some respects, depends on whether some of those things are pre-planned. We've heard previously, and we know this to be true, that some of them are historical actuals, but in some areas the answer may be $0 because that hasn't been spent in a couple of years, and there were no plans to spend any of that in degree or university type of diploma programs. And so I want to make sure that in terms of council's wishes and what the instructions are, that we're able to provide what council's looking for.
Okay, so wait, Stephanie, why don't you just make that announcement?
Through the chair, and I know finance could further on this a little bit more, but answering to Councillor Rabbit's question is this can go through, but nothing is really final until the confirming bylaw is passed at the end of budget deliberations. So this finance staff could get information to council and it could be revisited at a different time before the confirming bylaw is passed.
Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Being that there was a policy on the books in 2001, has there been any commitment made to staff that they would have their degree compensated for, like along the way? Because that could create an issue if the HR department said yes and then we changed it.
To my knowledge, it's approved on a yearly basis.
Okay, I'm not aware of that, but maybe that's what the policy says. Perhaps Mr. Slashenkov can answer that.
It depends, and it really depends on the position that the individual occupied and whether something like that would have been outlined in their employment contract with the county. So that could be an element. I don't have an instant knowledge, and that would require a significant amount of work to actually determine which employment agreements that the county is party to would have any of those items in there. Usually that's something that senior management group has, so maybe the search isn't as exhaustive. But I can certainly tell you, even before my start with this organization advertised and prided itself as being a learning organization. So even if we weren't able to compete with the Haldeman wages or the wages of our competitors and things we know to be true from doing, non-union pay analysis, we advertise that we are very much supportive of education and we encourage people to do so. I'm not sure necessarily what the impact of those characterizations during interview processes or when we advertised our jobs like that, what the impact of any of that would be. So the contracts are much more clear in that regard, and the rest is just sort of what our attraction advertising would have looked like historically.
Councillor Columbus?
Secondly, I take it, if other municipalities around us, we're continuing to pay for degrees and that type of thing, would we be having an exodus of employees, you feel, or would we be having a more difficult time to acquire employees without this policy?
You'd be getting one person's opinion in that particular thought process, and I'll repeat what I provided as my professional opinion during our orientation, and that opinion is we have a hard time competing with the salaries of some of our neighbors. Whether a move by council to more approach training dollars in a different manner and how that would impact our retraction or retention would quite honestly be pure speculation from myself. As far as the attracting youth perspective, and I was going to jump earlier when we were talking about the designations, and I completely agree with Madam Mayor on wanting to bring in people with all the certifications right off the get-go, and in a lot of cases not expend additional taxpayer funds to train them up. But unfortunately, through running a variety of processes, specifically with professional designations or a variety of our competitions in our health unit, where the positions are significantly more technical and require a lot of stuff, we're simply not getting the applications. So we're finding ourselves reposting 2 or 3 times, both 3-4 weeks at a time, and going with vacancies for a while to a point where it's no longer sustainable, and we end up with situations where we post positions asking for less qualifications, not because we don't need those qualifications, but because we can't attract those professionals, and then ending up in situations where we're having to
But we're talking
pay
about
to bring
people
them
that
up.
are already here. That are here and have then gone on to pursue a master's program while they're here in their job. And that master's program is not furthering the taxpayer of Norfolk County. A PhD is not furthering the taxpayer of Norfolk County.
So when I was making my comments, I would ask council to interpret them specifically from a technical education and certifications as they pertain to the functions of the role that they perform, as opposed to the other area that you're getting into, which is development into either that individual as a human being or as potential other opportunities. So to me, those are distinct, and as far as my own personal opinion, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with Madam Mayor on that part.
To be clear, Councillor Columbus, I mean, we have people on the sunshine list here that are actually benefiting from this program. To me, there's a problem with that, and that's why we need to put an end to the program. And if somebody wants to come to council with a justification for something, then we could approve that on an as-needed basis for whatever reason it may be. And there may be a provision in a contract that says you have to, as a term of your employment, have such and such completed by a certain period of time. But that provision, I sincerely doubt, and I would hope, never included that Norfolk County was agreeing to pay for such and such program by a particular time. And if somebody did come forward on an individual basis and had their contract in hand and said, hey, this was the contract you made me, well, then I guess we have to turn around and we're going to have to allow that person that has because they have a contract. But come forward then with your contract to say we're not going to go and pass this motion because there may be somebody out there and we don't have time to go through every employee's file. That's crazy. Have the employee come forward and we'll approve it.
I might agree with you in the end, but I was just asking a legitimate question. Thank you.
Okay, so would we like to vote on the motion that's on the table? All those in favor? Okay, and that's carried.
Are there any more questions related to the CAO's office?
Yep.
We'll move on to ECS, Employee and Corporate Services. So again, just a quick just overview of the reports. Your very first, you have a net levy requirement one, which actually is just a list of each of the divisions within ECS and their net levy request. And then from that point on, you'll have documents for each, a summary for each division that Jakob will be speaking to. Sorry, and Cindy's just getting the FMW report up for you.
Could we just kind of maybe move down, like just click on the salaries and benefits, just kind of scroll down through the boxes just to see kind of what's going on?
So I do.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Jakob, my apologies. Yeah.
Now it's on. I clicked it so many times I didn't know if it was on or not anymore. So I'll read my opening comments. In some respects, I wish I was reading last year's, where my division actually had a decrease of 2%. But it is what it is, and it's a new day and a new council, and so I'll read the ones that I have for today. The Employee and Corporate Services Division is considered by and large a support division. We support the entire corporation in the business that we do. It comprises the Communications Department, the Information Technology Department, the Human Resources Department, and the Corporate Support Services Department, which within itself includes a variety of branches that I introduced when we did the orientation, risk management, accessibility, purchasing, the court system as part of that. Our customers are staff, and we support them in their efforts to provide exceptional service to Norfolk County residents. An important differentiation exists in the Corporate Support Services Department, where several outward functions exist, including oversight for Provincial Offences Court, customer service, and accessibility. The Employee and Corporate Services budget, the divisional one you see today, includes a variety of small and significant budget drivers. Some of them as a result of our control, and some of them are a simple organizational restructuring of moving existing funds from one area into another. Overall, the 2019 Employee and Corporate Services budget, as presented, shows an increase of 27.7% from the previous year. The percentage increase is in part as a result of some of the following drivers: an increase in the interdepartmental charges across all departments as it relates to legal services, a decrease in revenue from POA fines, and an adjustment made based on average historical collection actuals, transfers from reserves to fund eligible health and wellness related costs, reduction in transfer from reserves to phase out funding of the Realty Services Program, as recommended by Financial Services, the reallocation of 2 FTEs from other parts of the organization into the Corporate Services Support Department to further support the corporate-wide implementation of centralized procurement, and finally, as we've spoken earlier today, the creation of a Communications Department. I will now provide some general comments on each department budget comprising the Employee and Corporate Services Division. The Employee and Corporate Services Administration budget, and that simply comprises myself and the Administrative Coordinator sitting to my left. That budget provides for 39.2 net levy decrease from the 2018 approved budget. And since Nicholas Loeb did go there, I am also not at job rate just like he is. The main budget drivers include a 98,000 decrease to salaries and benefits and a reduction of 119,000 in interdepartmental changes under that department's budget. The Corporate Support Services budget is presented in 2 segments, the first for the general operations and the second for the POA area. The Corporate Support Services general operation budgets provides for a 17.3 net levy increase from the 2018 approved budget. This includes the new budget and initiatives for the proposed accessible document/PDF remediation to ensure items on the website are accessible. There is an increase to salary and benefits of 181,500 due to the reallocation of 2 FTEs and economic and merit increases. Interdepartmental recoveries increase of 91,700 is based on prior year insurance premium actuals plus 3% inflationary adjustment. The POA budget provides for a 42.8% increase based on a 3-year average of the POA fine revenue has been decreased by 200,000. The information technology budget provides for a 4.8% net levy increase from the 2018 approved budget, which at this point in time would probably be less because at the time it included the new budget initiatives for the programmer analyst position. So some math wizard that works for financial services, if you're really interested, would probably be able to provide an updated number on that. Interdepartmental recoveries are increasing by 104,700 for IT support services. Materials and supplies have been decreased by 20,200, driven by a reduction of telephone charges through the reduced number of extensions. The 2019 Human Resources budget provides for a 63.4 increase from the 2018 approved budget. The salaries and benefits budget is seeing a merit and economic increase of 73,500. Included in this increase is the reallocation of the QP president's salary from financial services to the Human Resources Department. Interdepartmental charges are increasing by 49,100, primarily driven by the reallocation from services and further requirement for legal services. However, interdepartmental recoveries is increasing by 19,600 as a result of the 2.1 increase in HR support charges to other departments. In May 2018, based on unanimous council approval, staff initiated the steps to realign FTEs of staff across the corporation to create a centralized corporate communications department. So you see that budget in front of you, and we've gone into it before. I'm not going to go over that whole thing again. This concludes my opening remarks, and I'm here and the team is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Slichenkov? Okay, maybe we can just kind of materials and supplies. What goes into the materials and supplies that it went up 25%? So, is there a reason office supplies went up $4,300 in 1 year?
So is there a way we could deal with the questions on a departmental level?
Oh, okay, sure.
Would that be okay, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
So just to be, what we'll do, right now this is the summary for all of ECB. So we'll pull up the first division within ECB, which is the administration area. Cindy will show that one on on your screen.
Can you scroll down the page just a little bit? Something jumping out at me there. Sure, I mean, there's nothing other than the training, but that's going to come out separate, but. things like professional consulting services, like what are professional consulting services in that department? That would be for the corporate support services. It's increased 20,000, 60% this year.
Through Mayor Chop, I believe 18,000 of that reduction has moved over into our new realty services area. So it's a shuffle from one area into the next area. So that's a finance adjustment. I'm just pulling up my information.
I guess I'm not really, it doesn't matter which department, I'm just more, salaries went up in that department 16.8%, and yet we've got 60,000 in consulting services. So I'm just wondering, with all that growth in the department and all the new technology that we're putting in the department that's supposed to be easing the labor burden, why we still need outside consultants to do work.
So, thank you, Mayor Chop. Sorry, we just pulled that line. The $18,000 was actually removed in error last year. It was under legal services, and it was actually the costs of the Terranet system, and so it's come back into the budget. It was mistaken when the review of legal services was
Sorry,
done.
where, I just don't know where you talk with the 18,000, just so I'm following along.
18 is part of the 20,000. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the same page you are.
Now I think we've jumped to a different page or something. I've got, the page I'm looking at, consulting services, now says 32,700. That one's increased 33.5%. That's for corporate services. I need control of the machine. I'll even put it this way. Again, something we all ran on. No, let's stop with the outside consulting services. If it can be done in-house, that entire department, the salaries have gone up significantly. We're bringing in computerized systems, which is great, which should be easing the workload burden. I would like to see those consulting, maybe we do still have things that, need to be outsourced and so on, that's fine. But we should be seeing a decreasing trend in that, not, a 16, 20% increase. So I'm just wondering over the break, again, if these are areas that the departments could look at and see if we can't find some reductions by bringing stuff. So rather than go through each of these, on an individual basis, these would be areas, even, in the tax department, an area, my opening line from the story from the Nutmeg State was the story about, mailing out all of the, tax bills in separate envelopes. That's something we do here in Norfolk County. I bet we have a significant, postage line within that department. Perhaps, just maybe people could think over the next couple weeks of where we could find, just given we're looking at an 8.6% increase, where we could go and find some savings in these departments, some low-hanging fruit to go and grab. And so I don't want to sit here and say that it's this area or that area, but I don't want to see an increase in consulting services when we've all made a commitment to actually push for a reduction in consulting services. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. To no fault of staff, it's my understanding that this was the direction you were given, but I am baffled that this level of detail wasn't provided. Being new to the position, I would have never have been able to conceive the types of things that would have run under services or whatnot. So all of this drilling down is beyond helpful for me. I'm just having a hard time keeping up with it on the computer and digesting it all. If this information can be sent home in any way, shape, or form, that would be very beneficial to me.
Can I just add one piece to Councillor Martin there and that question? Can we get councillors to have access to this so that people can see what's going on?
So there's a couple things. One, I have a suggestion, like we mentioned earlier, we can provide council with this same document, except drilled down to a certain level. I just want to warn you, it'll probably be 2 binders long. It is a lot of paper, but this year perhaps is the year that we do that. And then when we reschedule budget days, then I think you will be more informed to ask these questions, and we can go over them then, because it just, when we're trying to go through and drill down as we go along, we seem to be stumbling a little bit. So, and then regarding the consulting services, if that's something that you wish staff to bring back, again, if that can be put in a resolution so we know it's written down on paper, so we make sure that we don't forget anything, that would be appreciated as well.
I think that the point is, over the couple breaks, come back with a better, have staff, it might not just be consulting, that's my point. I don't want to go and say that the training one was a specific thing, because it's, let's eliminate doing that. The rest of it is, staff needs to go back and relook at their departments over this period of time and see where some money can be found, as opposed to us sitting here and trying to say, take it off of consulting services or take it off of postage. Councillor Rabbits.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through the chair to staff, I would prefer if you are going to give us some drilled down documents, and you've just alluded to the fact that there could be binders worth of information, perhaps it's more prudent to receive that by USB stick so that we could ourselves put this up on our personal computers, click and drill down. It's going to give us an ability to see what the budget drivers actually are when you see a large increase in a certain area. What we're benefiting from is clicking down and seeing, we have a budget driver that may be in services, but when we expand on that, we can see what the actual line item is that it's driving up that cost. And it's going to allow us to make a more informed choice if we were to be suggesting a cut. And I would prefer mine by USB stick if I cannot log into the county's intranet and actually manipulate the data myself. I prefer if I could get it digitally. It's going to save you a bunch of printing costs.
Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My points regarding this, I don't know, remember a couple weeks ago when I was a little frustrated and I said, this process feels backwards to me. This is exactly what I was talking about, because when I was going through all of this, I'm like, I don't know what's under services. Like, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars here. And so to wade through this process, it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. So if we're looking at doing a change, this is where I propose we do a change. We're already half in, so we can't kind of go back and start over. But in terms of this piece, I am not comfortable making any more decisions or cutting anything more until I get, and I apologize, if you want in USB, good for you, but I want to see I do it better this way. And when I'm thinking of the binders compared to the time that it's taking and staff sitting here and everyone doing that, not that I don't like trees, I do, but that's just the way I would prefer to get my information. I would see it prudent that staff in the future, council in the future, receive a drilled down format, and then especially upcoming budgets, we'll have a better idea of departments and things like that and workings. But it's just, this doesn't work. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. So we need to come up with something else.
It's a drill down format as well as a historical outlook, so that you can see budget creep in departments over the years and which departments have, grossly expanded and so on. With looking at this, I mean, I'm glad everybody gets that now, it's Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask staff, is the USB thing possible, or is it easier for the individual councillors to make arrangements to sit down for a morning with one of the staff at a computer terminal and come here, and would that be simpler, easier, better, rather than staff looking for stuff, printing it off, making binders, sending sticks to others?
In the future, I would like us all to get at, there's no
Yeah.
reason that we as councilors can't have access to the budgeting system to be able to drill down and see these items when we want to look at things.
I'd hate to have staff, sort out a bunch of stuff to put on a binder, send it out to us. If we could come in and get it ourselves, or just play there for an hour or two and see what we individually want to see or drill down into.
Councilor Rabbit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was trying to provide an alternative to the binder tornado. A login would be a lot more conducive for us to access this information. I'm going to leave it up to staff's capable hands to recommend what would be the best format to present this information to us. This is our first time around. I realize this is a new ask, and I'm amenable to either of those solutions. I'm just looking to expedite what would be more conducive to allowing us to access the information in a timely manner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, there's like 4 or 5 questions there I need to answer before we go on. First of all, staff wants to do what council needs in order to move forward. However, so as far as whether it's on a memory stick or paper or what have you, we'll do whatever you need. It's just we need council direction on what you need. If there's certain councilors that want it on a memory stick and certain ones that want 3 or 4 binders, absolutely we'll do what you need to do, and we can sort that out. Or the sit down with us comment is excellent, because one of the things is there are a lot of questions as you look through it, and if we're there to help you as we go through, explain a lot of these items, it could save some questions at council, sort of thing. The other item regarding having like a login and access to the software itself, I would have to defer to Mr. Loeb on that one, because there is a lot of information there that I'm afraid would, if we allowed access. My understanding is having access to council is like having access to the public. And so anyways, I'm going to stop there and let Mr. Loeb speak on that.
So as a general prospect, so I could talk about it in open session, when information is provided to council in public, which is the same when we give you access to systems like that, then that makes that all public information, and there is considerable information within the financial software that is both confidential in the sense it relates to identifiable individuals who work for the corporation, and then there's also, as it relates specifically to legal items, privileged things that if you drill down to the lowest levels, some of the invoice lines have privileged information, sort of noted in what you can see there. And so the challenge is that I'm sure we can get to the place that you'd like to get us to, but it will take some time and some review on how to get there, and so that doesn't become public. I think I've mentioned this once before. It's difficult for me to speak to the level of liability that could be possible there because I haven't had the opportunity to look at that. So by way of example, certain lines could breach either contract documents that we have in terms of confidentiality, or other ones where they are either legal invoices, or HR ones could, in theory, breach either current or former employees' rights in a way that would pose liability challenges. So that's the legal component of giving access at the moment. I can't speak to how long or how much work it is to get to that place, but just in terms of doing it instantly, that's sort of the public advice I give. If you would like to know more, we would go into closed session. I can provide further detail if you'd like.
That's fine with not giving access, but that is something that we need to work towards. And we have how many people in the finance department that all have access to it? We do go into closed session. We do keep things confidential on behalf of Norfolk County. I don't see that because there's names in there, that would somehow be some violation when we are all subject to that confidentiality requirement. So that's fine that we don't do it today, so you can go and you can have time to verify this and so on. But in the future, as we move forward throughout the year, having access to that information so that this situation doesn't happen again. It is meant to be an open and transparent, corporation, and it is a public corporation. And I don't, in terms of names of who's taking training courses and that kind of thing, I don't see the confidentiality piece to that.
Yes, so there.
It's being funded by the
no,
taxpayer.
Yeah, so I'm being cognizant of not going too far in what I say publicly. That's not so much the elements of speaking to. So I agree with you. We can likely get to that place. I don't know what the technical challenges are on that, but I know with certainty there's information in there that should not be given to the public at the moment, but as long as we can get safeguards in place that remove that ability, then I would otherwise agree with you, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so it's already 3:15, Councillor Van Passen?
Chris?
Oh, your mic, Councillor Van Passen.
Sorry. I wouldn't want staff to go printing off a whole bunch of binders and things that some people want, some don't want. I think it'd be better for the individual counselor to come in here and work with our staff to find the information that they're looking for, get the understanding of the system that they're looking for, and then your big picture thing about having that set up that we can access it permanently, that will come over the course of the next year.
I just don't know how you can do that in an hour. I mean, I've been sitting here till 1 o'clock in the morning some mornings trying to go through stuff and compare. That's how I'm getting numbers out of 2016, 2017, 2018. I mean, I'm going back and handwriting stuff in here to be able to see trends and so on. So for me to sit in an office for an hour, it's not even, like I've been spending hours going through it and trying to put together the missing pieces. Councillor Martin.
I'd like to put a motion forward to ask staff to deliver high-level, drilled-down information as it pertains to the budget. Should a particular council member wish to access that in a different manner, you can contact staff directly, otherwise it would be delivered in a paper binder. And for council to reschedule budget. Actually, I additionally have another motion, and I don't know if it should be a separate item. It relates to the rescheduling of budget, and something I want to be very cautious of.
We'll keep it separate. Can you repeat that for Stephanie?
I don't know if I can. Through the mayor to our deputy clerk, I would like to put a motion forward asking staff to provide a high level of detailed, drilled down information as it relates to the budget to council. Should council, I don't know if this needs to be a part of it, should council want to access it outside of a paper format to connect with staff directly, and that it, in whatever format works best for council, and further that council reschedule budget.
Okay, whatever. So here's what I think of what would be best, rather than binders and binders and binders. We could go by department, okay? Have a breakdown like we're kind of seeing. So within professional consulting, we've got legal, title searching, consulting. Expand a department. You don't have to go the individual IT, the communications, and so on. Let's go by high level department and give us a trend, 16, 17, 18.
So just so I understand, we want 16 actuals, 17 actuals, 18 forecasted actuals, 2019 budget by division, but expanded to what we call the object code level.
Is it better with the actuals, or is it actual with the, is it not going to show it more clearly with the budget?
Budgets would be better.
Yeah, I would agree. As I didn't, I was, I thought we, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad there's more than one person here. So Now, just to help define what level to go down to, we have we have different names for these levels, and we have an object code level, which is, I believe, where the first 4 digits are. Is that the level that you want to go down to?
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
perfect.
So we will drill down to the object code level.
And in terms of putting it all together, I mean, a lot of this binder, I know it looks huge, but there's also like so many pages that are cover pages and, organization